Introducing first, in the corner to my right, he weighs in at 202 pounds, fighting out of Detroit, Michigan. He is a former TNA Tag Team Champion, a former multiple-time TNA X Division Champion, and a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Finally making his way to AIW, Chris Sabin! And his opponent in the corner to my left. He weighs in at 210 pounds, fighting out of Cleveland, Ohio. He is the BCs, the Cat's Pajamas, the whole shebang, Johnny Wrestling, all heart, and one of JT Lightning's prize pupils, Johnny Gargano!
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, first time encounter here in the annals of professional wrestling, a first appearance in AIW. You heard the accolades that Pedro just listed off for Chris Sabin, taking on Johnny Gargano, a stalwart here in AIW, a stalwart in Cleveland professional wrestling, and one of the best professional wrestlers in all the world. We said a lot about people here in AIW, don't we?
It's absolutely the case, and that's why I love the job I get to do. That's why I love the fans we have here and the fact that we listen to them as much as we do here in Absolute Intense Wrestling. We get to bring so many first-time encounters, and it helps that we've got Johnny Gargano, Cleveland's favorite son by far, and one of the best in the world. The guy's traveled all over the world, won titles all over the world. First-time encounter, as you said, Johnny Gargano, of course, a few months back. We brought Kevin Steen in for the first time, and Gargano insisted on welcoming him. He was unfortunately unable to welcome Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin's former tag team partner, during his first appearance recently. Instead, it was Tim Donst that got those honors. Of course, Tim Donst defeating Alex Shelley last month. And now, Chris Sabin looking to possibly get one back for the Motor City Machine Guns. But he has got quite the mountain to climb. Of course, his accolades, like you said, Pedro listed, not to be forgotten, but Johnny Gargano, no slouch himself. And you're going to see just what professional wrestling is all about in this matchup. A non-tournament exhibition, but it was one that we absolutely had to sign given the opportunity.
And again, Gargano in control, bit of a feeling out process, quick to the cover. Modified crucifix there.
Look at Chris Sabin fighting through, and the two of them exchanging position. And you'll be hard-pressed to figure out who has got the mat wrestling advantage in this one.
Gargano up to his feet. And I do want to point out, though, I'm sure a lot of the folks watching this at home through our good friends at Smart Mark Video have seen the rise of Johnny Gargano over the last several years. If this was Johnny Gargano from 3 years ago, 4 years ago even, he might have a few butterflies in his stomach facing off with someone the caliber of Chris Sabin, someone that he looked up to for a very long time. But Johnny Gargano, in my opinion, is on the same level as the men you mentioned before, your Kevin Steens, your Alex Shelley's, your Chris Sabins. He is not, that young kid anymore. He's just as good, if not better than, a lot of those top independent wrestling guys.
Well, absolutely, and it's very easy for those of us here in Absolute Intense Wrestling to take that for granted, that we do have one of the most accomplished and one of the best professional wrestlers in independent wrestling and professional wrestling, period, that calls AIW his home in between his travels of the world, because we really have watched Johnny Gargano grow up in an AIW ring. And it was years ago that we saw him make his debut against Tyrone Evans, the man who would go on to be known by many as Michael Tarver. And it was a very different. We watched him grow up before our eyes in there with a then young Tyler Black, who of course many know today is Seth Rollins. Some of the best in the world he's encountered, and he is a true student of the game, Leonard. You'll see every time out, even today, he learned something new. And we see him right there, obviously, no stranger, despite having never met Chris Sabin in the ring. Like you said, he was a fan of his work for years, and I guarantee has followed him for years. Now a double catch. Both of them going for the kick, both catching the other one.
We're several minutes into this contest, and a second time we are at a stalemate. These two men so evenly matched.
Well, and even stylistically, that's what's the thing. You know, you talk about the experience a lot of times. You talk about who's the better mat wrestler, who's better this, whose style can beat the other style. A lot of times in professional wrestling, it will come down to that battle of styles. It will come down to the powerhouse against the high flyer. You know, can he catch him and hold him? Or, you know, the mat wrestler against the brawler, and can he keep him grounded? Chris Sabin and Johnny Gargano are very similar stylistically.
Now this is where the things are kind of going to get a little different here, Matt. So Sabin, his debut here in AIW, for the better part of the last 10, 11 years, he has wrestled almost exclusively for TNA, Total Nonstop Action. Very little wrestling on the independent circuit. Johnny Gargano, just recently, less than 2 weeks ago, suffered a dislocated jaw in a wrestling match for the Evolve promotion. And, you know, he says that he's back 100%. He did just fly in from Los Angeles last night for PWG. So maybe a little jet lag, perhaps. Maybe still feeling the effects of that dislocated jaw. You know, I got to give the little bit of an advantage here to Sabin, perhaps, just because of those two factors for Gargano.
Well, indeed, and I've known Johnny, as I said, for years. I've watched him grow up in a professional wrestling ring. I remember a 17-year-old kid, you know, wide-eyed, making his debut in there. And if there's one thing, one knock against Johnny in recent years, he is truly all heart. And it's not unheard of that he'll come back too quick from these injuries. We saw it. I mean, he was on the shelf, career-threatening back injury a few years ago. We saw him come back earlier than expected. Of course, it was the gauntlet for the gold 2 years ago when he made his return unexpectedly to win that. So Johnny definitely can let his heart get him into situations that maybe a doctor would have told him to stay back. You know, it's very possible that the medical opinion on that jaw could have been that he maybe needed another 2 weeks off to heal it. But Johnny Gargano, knowing that fans had been just salivating at this matchup with Chris Sabin, wanted to be here tonight, wanted to give his home promotion, his home city, something to remember. And right there, he gave Chris Sabin something to remember, driving those knees into the midsection.
And Gargano maybe at this point taking a little bit too much time, letting some of that confidence get to his head here. He's got Sabin in control, and he has not gone for an attempt at a pin in the last couple minutes. Taking his time here, maybe just trying to pick Sabin apart. Sabin, I'll tell you, looks to be in the best shape of his career. I remember the first time that I saw him wrestle in 2002 in Philadelphia for the Ring of Honor promotion. I think he was the X Division champion at that time.
All right, now looking to take flight. Johnny seeing it coming. He's out of the way. But he certainly didn't see that boot coming. Just driving. And you'll notice, Chris Sabin, there was no accident with where that boot made contact. That was square on that jaw that you were talking about. That dislocated jaw. And when a man has a separation like that, I mean, when you get tired, you stop breathing through your nose, you start breathing through your mouth. When your jaw's dislocated, it's very difficult to keep your mouth open and breathe through your mouth. So Johnny Gargano, one of the best gas tanks in wrestling, is going to have trouble utilizing that. He's going to have trouble tapping into that reserve because it's going to be very difficult to breathe if he takes too many shots like that.
Sabin now here back in control. One suplex to another. Look at the deep stack there on that pin.
And look.
Yeah, Matt, you go ahead. You say it.
He's wrenched that rear chin lock going for it, but you'll notice he didn't simply, it would have been very easy to just grab it, cinch it back like we've seen for years in wrestling. He took the time to drive his palm slowly across that chin and put so much more pressure on before sinking in the chin lock.
You know, you got to wonder sometimes. I know me as a professional wrestler, I've never been in a wrestling match. I'll never be in a wrestling match. But these guys coming to these matches injured like this, you know, as you mentioned before, Matt, maybe coming back a little bit too soon. Gargano perhaps trying to mount a comeback, but Sabin puts a stop to it. Where I was going with this is if you suffer an injury, you know, especially in today's day and age of social media, you know, you give everyone updates. You let everyone know how you're doing. You let everyone know what the injury is and the extent of that injury. Listen, I'm sure Chris Sabin follows Johnny Gargano on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it is, and he followed along knowing this match was coming up, what the extent of this injury is. You're essentially telling your opponents and future opponents what your weaknesses are.
Absolutely, Leonard. I mean, I guarantee he knew exactly what to target. Chris Sabin, a student of professional wrestling, you know, he studied any footage he could get on Johnny Gargano, and look at that European uppercut. Just driving the forearm, driving the bicep up through the bottom of that jaw. He is going to knock it loose before all is said and done. And again, Sabin reaching up, cinching in that submission. And this is one that's stretching out the abdominal, stretching out the shoulders. And again, not directly targeting the chin, not directly targeting the jaw. But a few more shots like that, and Johnny Gargano is going to have a tough time getting the oxygen his body needs to continue.
And there was a pin attempt there by Sabin, nicely done out of the abdominal stretch. Also cradling the head on that pin, but still Gargano, all heart Johnny Gargano, showing that heart, showing why he has that name, kicking out of this. Sabin now whips him into the buckle. Just a step too slow, perhaps. Gargano able to get the boot up. Ducks under the clothesline, does Sabin. Both men bounding off the ropes. Nicely done with the back elbow.
And Gargano, you can see it. Gargano, exactly what I was talking about. He's breathing a little heavy. And at this point in the match, you're not used to seeing that out of Johnny Gargano. I mean, absolutely one of the best gas tanks in wrestling. Now rolling Sabin through, coming up with that boot. And attempting to get this crowd behind him, attempting to get them back in it. Sabin looking to create some distance, now headed back in. Johnny, though, catching him, coming in that slingshot spear. 1, 2. And Sabin out at the last possible second.
And just like that, with just a few moves strung together, Gargano in control of the contest now, perhaps signaling that this is the end. But Sabin has gotten some distance between himself. Head of steam there by Gargano, Sabin out of the way.
And Sabin looking to catch his breath. Gargano deposits him on the ring, after following it up with that enziguri. Now flipping himself up and over. Oh, Gargano looking to return the favor with that kick. Instead of has his legs sweep down. And it's tough. It was an awkward angle for us watching it, but it looked like his head might have caught that bottom turnbuckle coming down.
Certainly did, and now Sabin poised and ready, just waiting for Gargano to get back up.
Just sizing him up, waiting, again looking for that boot. This time Gargano out of the way and catching Sabin on his shoulders, fireman's carry position. Sabin back in the ring, catches that slingshot. DDT. He caught that shoulder connection at 2. Oh, and Gargano is close as close can be to getting that 3 count and ending this match.
And you mentioned before about the gas tank, the conditioning of Johnny Gargano, and you are seeing the sweat just pouring off him. And you see him there, checking that jaw perhaps.
I mean, as you said, he made it no secret. There were videos out there of him showing how his jaw would click when he opened and closed it. So you got to think he was listening for that. He was checking for all those signs of the damage he experienced. You know, is that playing in the back of his mind? We talk about the guy's all heart, that he doesn't have any give. And I was looking for that lawn dart. Instead, finds himself rolled up. Gargano out on 2 off of the roll-up.
And Sabin back to his feet, both men back to the feet, both men thinking the same exact thing. Second time those shots, this time Sabin changes it up, kick to the midsection. Thought he was going for a Northern Light suplex, instead drops him. Manhattan drop, clothesline, holds onto the arm. Brings him back up. Thought he was going for a pile driver perhaps. No, right into the DDT. Nicely done by Chris Sabin.
1, 2. And that's exactly what I was talking about, that sequence. Especially that spinning back kick to set it up. Johnny Gargano very familiar with it because he normally throws it. We've seen a kick exactly like that. That's what I was talking about when I said the styles so similar between these two men. Now Sabin calling for an end. Sabin having slowed Gargano down, having dealt quite a bit, and once again the hand going up to the jaw, checking the jaw. I mean, it is starting to take its toll. Gargano countering out, but he's caught and driven face first, spiked right on that jaw. Look at it, he's trying to get his hands up, trying to protect his head. That seated super kick. Now it's Sabin rolling through, rolling underneath of the kick that caught him earlier. Gargano low bridging him on the second rope, suicide dive hits.
And Gargano narrowly escaped, going all the way over the guardrail into the second row, but was able to connect on Sabin, continuing the assault, throwing him back into the ring. That's where you got to keep your man to beat him. Looking for the springboard spear again, gets caught.
Caught and hung out to dry. Sabin using it to elevate him before he corkscrews him down. Just spiking Chris Sabin. Sabin, spiking Gargano, who just barely gets that shoulder out. And you hear the crowd saying all that needs to be said right now.
And now we'd mentioned the condition of both these men before. Sabin now, the look on his face, you can just tell he has been in this contest for a very long time, and he is sucking wind at this point.
Now that back elbow countering through, but Gargano.
Wow, look at the way he got into that so fluidly, and he has it perfectly locked in the center of the ring.
Sabin in a very dangerous position. Chris Sabin, though, looking to elevate himself, instead rolling through on Gargano. Now looking into the cloverleaf. Sabin transitioning, countering into a cloverleaf, and has Gargano in a very precarious position. And we've been talking so much on the jaw. That back, that was what it was that put him on the shelf, that left him in so much danger of his career ending. And that cloverleaf was putting it on, but small package. Gargano had Sabin down only a 2 count. And that kick right to the side of the head, wrapping around, catching him in the back.
Gargano again, one more time. He hits the lawn dart here, you gotta think.
Just throwing him. Sabin getting so deep in that turnbuckle that he was hung up on a cover hook like 1, 2. So many times we've seen that lawn dart come so close to finishing guys off. Chris Sabin looked to be done after being set head first into that second turnbuckle.
And now referee Jake Clemens putting the count on both men. This match has been going on for a very long time. We're late in the evening here at night 2 of the JT Lightning Invitational Tournament. Both these men have taken and dished out a hell of a lot of punishment to each other.
Well, Johnny Gargano with a hell of a lot to prove. Let's not forget, we are literally on Johnny Gargano's home court. It was in the basement of this building where he learned professional wrestling. The super kick hitting its mark. Sabin blocking that spinning back kick again. And now looking to finish him off, elevating Gargano up and over, and Gargano once again dropping down.
A second time so fluidly into the Gargano escape.
And Sabin managed to get out of it the first time, and he taps out. There is no escaping for him the second time.
Here is your winner as a result of a submission, Johnny Gargano.
And Chris Sabin finding out firsthand what all the hype is about Johnny Gargano, what all the hype is about Absolute Intense Wrestling, making his long-awaited debut. And
first off, I gotta say, it's a pleasure to be able to be here and perform in front of people who really love wrestling. On the independents, you get to see heart. You get to see soul inside of this ring, something you don't see other places. And especially because I get to work class talents like Johnny Gargano. One thing I've always prided myself on was having a lot of heart inside this ring. And let me tell you, no one has as much heart as this guy right here. Let's give it up for Johnny Gargano.